Hey guys!
Welcome to Season 6, Episode 8 of For the Generation Podcast. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if you're new, welcome to our podcast.
We're your hosts, Natalia Velasco
and Alexa Gomez.
Today we're going to be talking about the first-gen experience with study abroad. We'll be talking to Jessica Garcia.
Jessica Garcia is a study abroad program advisor. She joined LMU in June 2021 as a student development specialist of the Ignacio Student Support Services Program, a program for first-generation and low-income students. Before LMU, Jessica worked at UCLA, working at both the Transfer Student Center and the First Year Experience Office. She started her higher education career at the Financial Aid Office at USC. She has extensive experience in developing and implementing transformative education programs for underrepresented students. Her backgrounds include college access and success, first-generation initiatives, transfer student initiatives, multicultural student programs, and K-12 background.
Jessica is a Los Angeles native and a proud first-generation college graduate and professional. She earned her AA degree in political science from SMC before completing her BA in psychology at Cal State Long Beach in 2015. After graduating, she moved to the Bay Area to teach and returned to LA to further her education, culminating in a Master of Education from UCLA in 2020. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you all for inviting me. I was very, excited and happy to be here.
Okay. So for our first question, can you talk a little bit about your job with Study Abroad?
Ooh, okay, yes. Where do we start? It's busy. We stay busy almost throughout the academic year. There's different cycles that happen. Right now, I think generally speaking, we're busy during the beginning of the semester. So like fall when students are coming back from the summer, but also towards the end as we're wrapping up. So this is also a pretty busy time as well. Generally, I would say we work through cycles. So we have summer programs, we have fall study abroad programs, and spring. So we have to review, the deadlines. I guess it all just depends on deadlines. So when we have our summer application deadline, it's generally January 31st. Okay. So that is our busiest time in the office. The next deadline is for fall 2024, for instance, and the deadline for that is March 2nd. And it stays pretty consistent throughout the academic years. Mm-hmm. And then if you're thinking about studying abroad in the spring, then the deadline is around October 2nd. So different cycles, starting the processes for every semester. Right now, we are getting ready to do a summer pre-departure orientation for our fall students tomorrow. We are sending about 326 students abroad for fall 2024.
Wow. That's awesome.
Angel's leaving us.
Yeah. Angel's actually going to London. Fun fact.
Yes. So Angel's one of the many. Yes, that is true. But we're also still kind of some of the cycles overlap because we just finished our summer pre-departure orientation last Friday. And we're sending about 220 students just summer.
Wow. So
if you think about it, we really have a little bit close to 500, if not more, students that we're preparing right now.
Wow. That is
to go abroad.
So can you tell us a little bit about the First to Go study abroad opportunity?
Yes, First to Go study abroad is one of my favorite programs. I think it's like a full circle for me because I worked at the UCLA First to Go program very shortly during my graduate time there,
awesome.
Which is where I met LT, Dr. Latanya Rees-Miles, which is the founder of First to Go. Yes. I don't know if she listens to this podcast, but hey, LT, who would have thought I would be here at LMU? Actually, thanks to her. But yes, and so one of the things is about the First to Go Abroad program is actually program is possible because of LT. Mm-hmm. So during her time here at LMU, it was an incentive something that she really wanted to start from what I know. And she collaborated with somebody who's no longer in the study abroad office, Adrian Doyle, and they really wanted to create a program or a space for first-gen students to have an abroad experience, right? Oftentimes, as you know, as first-gen students, you think about all of like the financial barriers, or sometimes studying abroad doesn't even cross your mind. You kind of like opt yourself out. And so they really wanted to create a program that also gave first-gen students this opportunity, but how it also ties into different social justice topics. And in addition to that, I would say it's important to note that it's a really great way for our students to combine and transfer their education or academic passions and see how it can translate to other outside of the LMU space, right? And even not just LMU, but like outside the Western culture and society, So First to Go Abroad right now, it's a different program than most of the programs that we have. It is a 12-day program. It is one of the things that this upcoming First to Go program is going to be in Costa Rica, right? And there's going to be topics that are going to be covered that touch base on LGBTQ plus issues, immigration. What does it look like to be, Latina and Black, and what does that look like in the Latin American country? There's different topics that are going to be discussed during this program, but it's short. It's a short one. The difference, I would say, is that does not provide course credit like our other abroad programs, because it's a short program, but you still get the experience, which is why the focus is really on the social justice topics and how we can provide that while you're out there.
Do you know how many like First to Go study abroad programs there have been in the past? Because hasn't it been Costa Rica before?
Yeah.
But then it was Germany for us last year.
Right.
Yes. So in the past, before the pandemic, yes, it was Costa Rica. And I think right now we're trying to find a more consistent location.
Right.
And so last year was a little different because it was Bonn, Germany.
Yes.
And then that, I think it's just right now working with Lexi and the Study Abroad office, trying to find what location we aligns best with the social justice mission, the topics that we want to bring, and the program itself. Because every location, and we have to work with providers. And so we need to see, okay, well, what does it include? For instance, like is housing included for our students? Are meals included for our students? What excursion activities are included? So we need to look at all of the logistics and work with like how does it align with the program missions and what we want to achieve with it.
Do you guys think you would ever go back to Bonn in the future, or?
I don't know. I think after Costa Rica right now, because we are working with a different provider, I think we want to hear back from the students, and Lexi and everybody to see, well, is this something that we want to do next year again? And then consider maybe another location and see, and maybe have a more stable program versus always having to build it from scratch.
Yeah.
Have you noticed differences in the process of study abroad for first-gen students? Well, I think you kind of mentioned that.
Like, what do you mean, like different process? Like application process?
I guess like some people don't take it. Some first-gen students don't take it into consideration. Let's take studying abroad into consideration. Like they're just like, no, like that's not for me.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to assess because sometimes when students make appointments, I don't know right away if they're first gen unless they disclose it.
Right.
But I would say that it's helpful. I would encourage you, like if you are first gen, to let us know, because then that way we can really look into like, okay, what program works for you? What are some of your concerns? Is like financial barriers really like a big issue for you? What do you want to get out of the program as well? In regards to First to Go, I would say that is a very unique opportunity because it's incredibly subsidized. So First to Go Abroad is $1,000, right? And that includes everything. It's different because all you students need to do is submit an application with the study abroad office, and everything is taken care of on our end.
Right.
Flight bookings, we do that. Housing, transportation from airport to lodging, excursions, meals, all of that is taken care of through our office. So the student doesn't need to do that. Versus our other programs, the student needs to take care of booking their flight. The student needs to take care of other things depending on the program, because each program offers something different.
Right.
But not all programs offer meals, for instance. Then you need to take care of that while you're abroad. So I would say it is a very good opportunity, although $1,000 is still a lot for some of our students, especially our students who are economically marginalized. That could still be a lot. But I encourage students to still ask and see, are there additional funding opportunities? What is available? Because you just never know.
Yeah. And for those first gen trips, are they always going to be social justice centered, or are you guys like exploring other ideas as far as like how you want to go about them, or is what you have right now kind of like set in stone?
Yeah, I think at least for the First to Go program, it has to be rooted in some social justice topic.
Right.
The topic could differentiate from year to year. I think it's just more of a conversation of where we want to go, and having a conversation with Lexi,
right,
what she envisions for the program and how we make that align with it.
Definitely.
When it comes to regular study abroad programs, then it's more focused on like other considerations like your major, like it opens it up a little bit different. But in this situation, because it's not credit bearing for First to Go, because it's just 12 days.
Right.
So we want to make sure that there is a social justice component in it.
Definitely.
Now, these are more like broad questions, but what advice would you give to students who are studying abroad?
Ooh, what advice? Okay, that's a good question, actually, because I will tell you that some students think about, so I think when you think studying abroad, some students may think about it as it's all nice and beautiful, which it is because you're exploring a new country, right?
Definitely.
But also thinking about, what do you want to get out of it, the experience? Is it a language, culture, immersion? Is it, and really embracing being uncomfortable, because there will be times where you might feel like experience the culture shock. And some students do experience homesickness.
Yeah.
So making a plan of like, okay, what support do I need while I'm away, especially for, our semester programs. They're a semester 15 to 16 week programs. So you're there for almost 3 months. And so what support do you need back home, like to keep you, keep your mental health, okay with your family, support system that you need, like thinking about what you want to do and planning those ahead, because you are going to be in a different time zone.
Right.
Too. Something I would also say, especially for our first-gen students, is having that conversation with your family, with your parents. I remember, talking to a student, and she was like, I didn't study abroad and I wish I did. She's one of our student staff. And she's like, my parents laughed at me when I told them that I wanted to study abroad because it's so expensive, and she was like, yeah, I wish I did, but I'm kind of glad I didn't at the same time. But that's not to say, again, and that's also during the pandemic when the student was trying to go, but like there were so many other things to consider. But yes, I would definitely say looking into seeing what kind of experience you want to get, and also knowing that where you're going to go, it's going to take time for you to get adjusted, depending on what country you're going to. There's a story of a student actually who went to one of our programs in France, and I think her expectations were that everybody still spoke English. And it was just one of those things where, no, yes, maybe the majority, there might be people that speak English, but not everybody will.
Right.
So I think taking into consideration your destination and what academic what you want to get out of it academically as well.
Yeah.
How does it align with some of your academic requirements, your LMU core requirements? What are some things that you can fulfill while you're abroad as well?
Yeah. Have there ever been times where like someone gets so homesick they come back or anything like that you've heard of? Or
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
yes. So that student that I was telling you about, she just could not take it. Not, people not knowing English. She came back.
Oh wow.
She came back.
After how long?
Just a week.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Wow.
a week. Ended up doing a community college course out here instead. So these are some of the things that we're like, you need to start thinking ahead of time and trying to prepare yourself for, what are some things that are happening in that country,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
things like laws and all of that. It's different for other countries and how they see these things.
Yeah.
How many different countries do you guys have programs with?
Oh my goodness. So we have over 120 programs.
Oh, wow.
So many.
And the thing about it is there's 4 different kind of programs that you could do. So you could do a summer abroad program. They're typically as short as 12 days or up to 4 to 6 weeks. There's the semester programs, and those are there's different kinds. So when you go on our website, you'll see, for instance, LMU Summer in London. Those programs, when you look at the catalog, the brochure, it'll tell you exactly the courses that will align with your LMU, with LMU curriculum. There are other programs that don't have that. That doesn't mean that you won't get credits for it. It just means that there's an additional step for students to take to apply to the program, where you're also going to be applying directly with the institution that you're going to go to. And in addition to that, you'll need to see what courses they'll be offering, and you'll need to submit something that we call a transfer course review form with the Office of the Registrar. And then from there, they'll tell you, hey, these are the courses. Students will list, these are the courses that I want to take, submit, and then the Office of the Registrar will be like, okay, great, these are the courses that could fulfill these, and this is how many credits you get. And then you kind of assess that. We also have something that's called SIT. And SIT are more focused programs, and those are more what do I say? If you kind of are a student who is really interested in climate change, why am I not, it's not coming to me, global issues, then those are the programs for you. They're more rooted in a specific career versus the other programs. And then we have exchange programs. So exchange programs work a little bit different. So these are if you apply to the university in Augsburg in Mexico, then you'll go and you'll take classes along with other students. So LMU also gets exchange students from other countries, and they take classes with you all here.
Okay.
So it would be the same. So those are 4 different type of programs that you could potentially apply for.
I feel like I didn't realize that we had exchange students. In high school I had that, but I didn't really realize you can do that in college.
Yeah, you can. And so they live here with y'all, they take the courses with y'all, same thing. And then if you decide to do an exchange program, they would apply as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how would you say one should stay focused on their studies instead of traveling all around the country?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a good, I would say similarly to here, having a way to keep yourself organized, whether that's a planner, whether that's your Google Calendar, whatever that looks like for you, making sure that you're still staying, managing your time in some way. Also having what time are your classes, and carving out space for studying time, because you're still, yes, you're in another country, but you're still a student out there. You're still taking courses. You're still going to receive a grade for it.
Yeah.
And so having those set times of like, okay, this is the time I'm going to study. This is the time, maybe the weekends, that I can go out and explore. And the great thing about it is, you'll meet other people out there. One of the great things about going abroad is that you'll expand your network. You'll meet students from other countries. You'll meet faculty from other countries, and it always looks great on your resume.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any horror stories about students not taking school seriously abroad?
Horror stories. Oh my gosh. I don't know if there are any horror stories. I mean, I will share something that the interim director mentioned and he talks about, but there was a group of students who were out and they were hanging out and they make a turn on the street. They were walking and one of their friends gets hit by a moped.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, I know. And it's like, what do you do? Like, how do you react? What should you do? Because the student then afterwards could not feel any like movement, like could not get up.
Oh my gosh.
And so there are a lot of things that could happen abroad.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
we always encourage students to, we prepare them, like emergency response. Who do you call? Who do you reach out to? That's what the pre-departure orientation is for. We go over health and safety, all of those things that could potentially happen, but things like that do happen. I've heard from students say of like, they'll call and they're like worried because like, oh my God, I found mold in my dorm or something. Those are like kind of like some things that, I don't know, I guess could happen. You don't think about it, But yes, there are times that we also encourage students to let us know if they have any like health issues or health, diagnosis that we need to be aware of, because every country operates different.
Right.
And not everybody has. LMU does provide an emergency health insurance, but it's for an emergency, so we kind of try to prepare our students. So like, hey, check in with your health insurance. Are you covered abroad? We do receive LMU health insurance, but it's more like an emergency situation.
Mm-hmm. How would you suggest students pick out where they study abroad?
I would say there's a lot of things that you can consider when picking a program, whether it's your major. Are you looking to fulfill or immerse yourself in more of like a business program, which I think is why the London program is so popular, because we have a lot of the courses align with the B Corps requirements. But in addition to that, I would say some programs, looking at the program, each program, and seeing what does it cover. Because like I mentioned, not all programs, for instance, cover meals or what kind of housing it provides. Some of them are like dorm style, but some of them are not dorm style housing. Is that okay for you? Is that something that you would be okay with? There's also, for instance, there are some programs that could provide additional like financial aid or assistance or scholarships, but there's some programs that don't, that you can't, it doesn't give you, you can't apply for certain things. So looking into those things, like financial situation, circumstances, for example, like do you need to apply for a visa, to go abroad? When there's an internship component, students do need to apply for a visa because you're going to be interning or like working abroad. So those are things like that you would want to consider: the academic, the finance, the location as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the location at? Check the weather, check the language. Is English a common language? Is it not? Do you need to really immerse yourself, or is that something that you want to get out of it? Do you really want to immerse yourself in a different language? And that would be an experience for you to decide on. In addition to that, I would say look into not just the program fees and what it includes, but I would say looking into scholarships and grants that are available to study abroad. So there is the Gilman grant that you can apply to. And then there's a Gilman incentive grant. So it's kind of confusing, but it's essentially the same scholarship, and it provides up to $5,000 to a student who wishes to study abroad, and they have a whole year to use that, which is kind of cool because that means if you apply to like now, you don't have to use it right away. You have like a year. But it is a national scholarship that is open to students nationally, so it's competitive. However, LMU has the Gilman Incentive Grant, which means that simply by applying and working with the Office of National International Fellowships, you are guaranteed $2,000.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So that's really nice. So even like just you submitting it is really helpful.
Oh. That's awkward.
This is kind of random, but so are there like some programs that don't provide you housing, and so you have to like find your own housing out there? Like,
no, there are some programs where you potentially live in family housing. So you're like living with a family that hosts students.
Okay.
But most of them provide housing, but sometimes it might look different. So like it could be dorms, maybe it's apartments, or maybe it's like in a hotel.
oh, okay.
So those are the different ones. Yeah.
How many offer internships like with the study abroad?
Not that many, because what we want to work with is like if you are doing an internship, like making sure that there's a credit attached to it,
Right.
And that's a whole process. But there's the one in Croatia. We have a program in Croatia that's a semester program that offers an internship, and those are more for like our theology majors, and that has a 2-unit internship component. In addition to that, students work on a project and they get to present it in a conference.
Oh, wow.
And with like faculty and staff and so that's always really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Another thing I want to point out is like in our website, in the academics tab, you can look up programs that align based on the college department. So like if you are in CBA, there's CBA, you can click on them and it'll tell you like these are the programs that align most with this major. And so you can kind of look through it like that.
Okay.
I think not all of our students know, because sometimes they're like, oh, well, I'm, like an engineering major, like what programs are available for me? There's not that many. That's something that we're working on. We do want to increase our portfolio to touch on like some of our science students.
Right.
But it is something that's available there. We also have a tab under planning that's scholarships and grants, and you can see other scholarship opportunities to study abroad. There's another one that's for students who have never been outside the country, and I think it's like $1,500.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
How do the classes look? Like, are they the same amount of hours as they are here at LMU?
Yeah. So typically there's two different. So for summer programs, most of our summer programs offer 2 courses. So students are taking at least 8 units abroad. With the exception of one program that was recently added, it's our Croatian theater program. That's 9 units. But other than that, most of the summer programs, you do 2 units, 2 courses, and then you get 8 units for it. Semester, you're taking a full credit, like units as LMU, so it can range from 15 units to 18 units. The classes, you are fully immersed in the university that you're in. So for instance, like in Oxford, you go there, you're going to be taking classes with the students at the college, at the Queen's College, taking the classes in the classrooms there. So it varies depending on the college, but yes, you are still taking like a full-time units.
What would the process be? This is kind of a silly question, but like, if you're abroad and
Yeah.
you're applying for classes for like the upcoming semester back at LMU,
Yes.
how does that process work? I've always been curious about that.
Yeah, well, you're still a student.
Mhm.
You're not like doing a leave of absence. You're just simply still studying
Right.
but just abroad. So you'll still get like your registration date.
Okay.
So it'll still be this. You'll go into your PRAL, like you'll still do that. You'll just have to kind of maybe adjust because you're
Right.
probably going to be in a different time zone. So you want to make sure that you
Yeah,
don't
that's
miss it
true.
because, well, you're going to be basing it off LA time.
Right.
So,
Okay. That
yeah.
makes sense.
Do you get to travel for your job?
I feel like that's one of the biggest questions I get. No, not necessarily. So Pam, if you listen to this, just hinting.
She wants to go abroad.
Yeah. No, not yet. I mean, I recently started at this office in January, but we have had conversations of like, when can we go? Is there an opportunity? I was really close to going to Oxford this summer. Sometimes what happens is we have to meet a certain minimum of students for the program to actually run.
Right.
So when we get less than, let's say, 10 students apply for a program, it's really hard for it to actually run. And then it gets canceled. So it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And so because LMU like pays a certain fee for a certain minimum amount of students, what was going to happen was that if we're going to fill up this other 2 spots, they were going to send somebody from the office to go. But we ended up filling the spots.
Oh, man.
So, good for the students, but not so good for me, but yeah.
So have you gone on any study abroad trips at all yet? Or are you planning on going on some?
Well, I didn't study abroad when I was an undergrad.
Okay.
But after I have visited, like last year I went to Japan.
Oh, awesome.
It was one of the most amazing experiences I had. It was really great. The culture shock, for real, it's so different. It's so different, but I've been to Japan and I've also been to Paris. And of course I visited Mexico. So my family is from Mexico. So I think when I first went, it was definitely different to see
for sure.
the way of living, the food, how people interact, all of that. And it was really a reality check too, to like really appreciate what I have here.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you guys been anywhere abroad?
Mexico and Germany.
Yeah, we went on the Germany trip.
Yes.
I've also been to Italy and France briefly. That was super cool.
How was that?
I went with my family last summer and it was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Did you experience any culture shock? What did that look like?
I guess a little bit. I mean, things run so differently in different countries. I don't know. I think everything was just a lot slower compared to like living in LA.
That's so true.
Because I'm from here, so like I'm used to like not super fast paced, but like not as slow of a pace as how they live in Europe. But it was awesome. I would love to go again.
Yeah, that's very true. I remember visiting my grandma in Mexico, and they really take their time to have breakfast, to have lunch. Like, it's not rushed. We're here, like, sometimes you skip a meal, but over there it's like, no, it's really like that time is really honored, and they sit down and they eat, and sometimes they eat like 2 breakfasts, and I'm like, whoa, like, so. Yeah.
So for approving like different programs, does anyone from like the study abroad office like have to go to that program to like approve it? Or?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so here's what I know so far about approving programs. So it starts really off of like maybe a faculty or a department that has an idea of like, maybe they already have like a location that they want to do a program in, or maybe they have like academics or things like that. So that's what kind of initiates the conversation. And then from there, the study abroad office then needs to look for providers or host institutions that have like centers to see what programs they offer, and then we talk about arrangements. There's a component of, like I was mentioning, the housing, the meals, the excursions, the transportation, what is included, how does it align with the goals of like what the faculty or the college department wants to do. And then it goes through a financial agreement between both LMU and the institution. So we don't travel there, but there's a lot of like meetings, like Zoom meetings, email interactions. And so we have like our financial director, and she kind of approves it, and she's like, okay, this is great, because they'll give us like an assessment of like a contract. This is what the program is. They'll divide it by like what is included, how many students, dorms, how much is allocated for that, for housing. So it takes about a year to a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
To create a new program.
Okay.
So that is, yes. And there's multiple factors that go in the middle of all of that. But typically it takes about a year to a year and a half.
Okay. Would you recommend transferred students, like more specifically juniors, to study abroad, or is that kind of too late already? What do you think?
No, I don't think that it's too late. I think for our transfers, I was a transfer student too, and I think you have to hit the ground and running. You have 2 years, right? So you have not as much time as if you would have started here as a freshman.
Right.
But I would not discourage them to not think about study abroad. The thing about transfers is that they are allowed to transfer after their first semester of being at LMU. So if they start in the fall, they can start looking in the fall to already study abroad in the spring.
Oh, wow.
Versus like first year students, they can start studying abroad after their first academic year at LMU. So technically, we recommend students to look into the sophomore and junior years to study abroad, and transfers, we encourage them to go, after their first semester.
Does LMU have like a program where your first semester could be abroad, like let's say like in the fall of your freshman year?
No, we don't have one. Not yet. I feel if that's like of interest, then that would definitely be something to have a conversation. But again, like I said, it takes about a year or so to get something like that going.
Right, definitely.
There are institutions like UC Berkeley that do have like a freshman, like first year study abroad program for students. I think it just depends what the goals are. Do we want to offer it to all freshmen?
Yeah.
Maybe it would be more of like a LMU core requirements, fulfilling those,
right.
Or would it be more like major specific?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. You guys work with a lot of outside programs based in other countries. How do you establish those connections with them? And do you have a favorite program that you guys work with, or?
Oh my goodness, we have so many providers that it's just a little, it's a lot, but I will tell you that the providers that are the best to work with is when they lay out all the information nicely for us.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have, for instance, like our summer programs, all of our contracts look different for all of the programs, because all of the programs offer different things, but also the providers, the way that they send over their contract looks different. So some of them are like really nice, where students are asking me like, okay, well, where are we going to stay at? What is the address, the location, all of that? I can just go back to that, and I'm like, okay, great, it's here. Sometimes it's not there, and then I have to be like, hey, our students are want to know where they're going to stay at. Where is the location? Can you at least tell me the city? And sometimes they're like, well, we're going to send this information 2 weeks before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it could be a little bit late, So
That's super late.
I know. And students are trying to plan out their trip. And so those are the times where we're like, okay, every provider works differently. But I will say that we do have programs that have been running for years, so we have a sense already of how it works.
Right.
For instance, our program for summer in LMU in Rome, it's been running for years now, so we have an idea of like how it works, how our providers work. So that makes it easier for us, and to share information with the students as well.
If you were a college student today, which program would you want to be a part
Oh
of?
my God. Wow. What program would I want to be a part of? I would say, and maybe because right now I've been really interested in wanting to go to New Zealand.
Ooh.
I would probably do the University of Auckland in New Zealand.
That sounds super fun.
So I heard the weather is nice. It's very green, and the city is really nice. We actually had a representative come earlier in the semester, which I think is really helpful. Because sometimes our students don't think about outside of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody wants to go to Europe, but we have so many other countries that are not Europe.
Yeah.
And so we had this representative come, and it really increased the number of applications just by simply having this person here and talk about New Zealand. And, you know, maybe that's why it's been on my mind too. Because I was talking to him and I was like, oh, that's great.
You got convinced too.
I was like, yes, I was persuaded.
Sounds good. I'll do it.
You know what? Sign me up. Yeah, so I New Zealand, I would say, but yes, I want to encourage students to look into other areas.
Yeah,
that is not Europe.
Yeah. What has been the most rewarding part of working in the study abroad office so far?
The most rewarding, oh my goodness, when I work with students who come in and they tell me, like, I've never been on an airplane before, I don't know how to book a flight. And meeting with them and helping them and walking them step by step, things to consider, and then getting like a message afterwards saying like, thank you so much, like, you know, I was able to do it. Or some of our international students at LMU who want to study abroad, because if you're an international student, you can still study abroad, you know,
right?
And they have to go through visa approval and different, like, they have to make an appointment, they need all this paperwork done. And so when we get those messages of like, I was approved, thank you so much for all your help, I think those are the moments where you're like, okay, great, you know, it's that rewarding piece that reminds me of like why I do the job, why I do the work, why I'm here, and hoping to increase more of like that access for our students. And how do we create access give those opportunities to students? How do we increase scholarship money for them to make it possible? Because it's honestly, to LMU tuition, as you know, is expensive,
right?
You know, and to think about studying abroad, going abroad, it's a lot, because you need to think about not just doing that, but there's additional costs to that.
Yeah.
Like you booking your flight, you know, and if it's outside the country, it's at least $1,000 to more than $2,000 for a round trip. And then your meals, and you want to go out, right? You want to explore a little bit. So all of that, it could add up. So I think for me, it's always that commitment of access and thinking about our, you know, marginalized students, underrepresented students who don't go abroad or would not have that experience to do so.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, that was fast.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us. We had so much fun.
Yes, thank you. And if I can just say, if you ever thinking about studying abroad and you want to talk about it, please come to the office. We are in VDA, across from CPD. Make an appointment with me. I'm happy to walk you through it and explain the process and just work through it.
Awesome.
Thank you. We'll see you 4th Jan.
Bye.